This is the brand new OMSYSTEM m.zuiko 50-200 F2.8 IS Pro, and honestly there's nothing else like it on the market right now. In full frame terms, that's a 100-400 constant f2.8, which promises to be an absolute game changer. Ideal for wildlife, landscapes, even macro photography. But can it really do it all? Well, in this video I'm going to push it to its limits to find out. So I just want to explain why I'm so excited about this lens. And for me, it really comes down to a few key things. Firstly, I earn a living from landscape photography, so I need a super sharp, versatile telephoto that gives me enough reach, but is still small and light enough to carry on long hikes and adventures. At the same time, I love grabbing wildlife shots when I get the chance, and I always enjoy a bit of macro photography too when I'm out and about. So to get all of that in a small package like this is honestly kind of wild. Now, to really put this lens to the test, I've set myself a challenge today. 3 genres in one day: wildlife, macro and landscape. It's going to be really difficult, but I want to really see if this lens can handle it, and hopefully we'll get some nice shots along the way, and if it does do well, I'll be absolutely buzzing. So while we're in this amazing woodland, I think the first thing I'm looking for is a macro shot. Maybe some details, some leaf litter or some fungi, something like that. This lens has a minimum focusing distance of 78 centimeters throughout the entire zoom range, and in full frame terms, a 0.5 times magnification. For example, if you photograph a 2 centimeter object, it would appear as a 1 centimeter object on the sensor. Now, if you want to increase this to what many photographers call true macro, you can attach one of OMSYSTEM's teleconverters. Their 2 times converter will give you a full 1 times magnification. So a 2 centimeter object would appear as a 2 centimeter object. So I've been wandering around for a while now looking for fungi or mushrooms, and I think it's just too dry for that. So I've turned my attention to the floor here, and I've come across this wonderful patch of light green moss, and it's just catching some wonderfully soft diffused light that's coming through these trees here. And amongst all of this clutter, I found this one little patch down here, and there's this lovely golden brown beech leaf just sitting perfectly on the moss, and the contrast between the two colours looks absolutely fantastic, and this soft light is really nice as well, really suits this minimalist composition. So I think what I'm going to do is frame this one up here, see if we can make a nice detailed shot. I'm at about 170 millimeters here on the 50-200mm f2.8. I'm at f5.6, and I'm really just focusing in on the leaf there. But what I'm doing, I'm trying to wait for the light to be nice and diffused, so we've not got too many harsh shadows. Some lovely fine textures and details in this leaf. Really nice and reflective as well, which is nice. Very minimalist shot. So yeah, framing it up so the angle of the center of the leaf runs diagonally through the image. So yeah, currently I'm at ISO 200, f5.6 and 80th of a second. So my next challenge is birds in flight, probably one of the hardest shots in nature photography to pull off. So I'm heading up into the Carmarthen Hills to a bird hide to photograph the amazing red kite. It's going to be frantic, fast-paced and honestly pretty difficult. I think the ultimate test for shooting wide open at f2.8. So as feeding time, which is 3 PM every day, drew nearer, the kite started to circle closer to the hides. This gave me a chance to experiment with my shutter speeds and get my eye in. I set it on a very high shutter speed of 32/100th of a second at f2.8, and I set my ISO to auto. I did a few tests, and this meant that the highest ISO I would likely shoot at was 2000, and this was only when I had the distant trees in my backdrop, which I think is totally fine with this setup. So here are a few shots from the first part of the shoot. Now, while I'm happy with these shots, the overcast sky looking almost a flat light grey isn't the most appealing to me, so I was really keen to see if I could get some environmental shots with the hills and trees in the frame. And this proved to be particularly challenging because the birds would swoop down at an incredible speed, but I have to say, this setup didn't let me down, and I was able to come away with quite a few decent images, I think. So these birds were once hunted and poisoned, and by the late 1800s they were completely wiped out in England and Scotland. The only survivors were a tiny population here in Wales, literally just a few pairs clinging on. In 1989, reintroduction programmes and feeding stations like this one began, and thankfully those efforts were a huge success. And today red kites are one of the UK's greatest conservation comeback stories. It's incredible to think how close we came to losing them altogether. So while we're walking to our destination for the landscape photography shot, I just wanted to say how amazing the autofocus is on this system. My keeper rate back there was exceedingly high, and I was very impressed with how it all worked out. I was managed to capture quite a few nice images, I think, so that was really good. Now the light is dropping rapidly because it took me quite a few hours to get back from the red kite bird hide there. It's normally about an hour and a half drive, but yeah, it took me about 2.5 hours, something like that, due to the traffic. So we're chasing the light a little bit, and things looking a little bit hazy as well. So fingers crossed it all works out in a second. But yeah, we will see. So while I was in the hide, I was mostly shooting between 100 and 200mm, which with a crop factor of ×2, that gives you a 200 to 400 full frame equivalent field of view, and that worked perfectly for the distance I was from those birds. Now what's really interesting is that OMSYSTEM makes a couple of different teleconverters for this lens, which makes this an even more versatile lens for wildlife photography, a 1.4x and a 2x. With those, you're looking at a maximum reach of about 560mm with a constant f4 aperture, or 800mm with a constant f5.6. Of course, that's in full frame terms. Now, just for context, an 800mm f5.6 prime lens is going to set you back about £18,000. It's probably going to weigh about 3 times as much as this and be twice as long. So to get that in such a small package is pretty incredible, and makes this lens really appealing to me. So it is about an hour before sunset, but you wouldn't know it. You'd think the sun is already down because yeah, there's not a lot of light hitting the cliffs in the background there. My thought was I would shoot straight down the coast here, catch these cliffs coming into the water, and hopefully my backdrop would be lit up by the sun, but sadly that's not the case, and it's very hazy out that way. But I am going to get the telephoto lens out and I'm going to give it a try and see if we can pick out some details, something that might work in these conditions. So yeah, whenever I'm doing this, the best thing to do, I find, is to put the lens on the camera and just look through the viewfinder and see what you can find. So fingers crossed it works out. So sometimes you have to admit defeat, don't you, at a location? And that's what we're doing. We're moving on. And hopefully the view, the opposite direction, might be a little bit better, because everything was in the shade there. I've been down here so many times and the landscape back there has been lit up, but not on this occasion. But anyway, let's head down here and see what we can find. Well, I can't quite believe how quickly the light has dropped this evening. I thought I had a good hour down here, but it's really not been the case. But anyway, I have made a composition here that I think is quite interesting, if nothing else. And sometimes that's enough, isn't it? So at the end of the peninsula here, we've got this fallen boulder, and just underneath it, there's a little bit of a gap of light. So you can see that the actual boulder's fallen down. It's quite a graphical, I guess, formation of rocks. And I've basically going for a very minimalist approach here, probably black and white, and also a long exposure, hence the tripod. So at the minute I've got a 25-second exposure. So I'm actually using one of the OM1 Mark II's computational features, the live ND filter. So I'm not adding any additional filters to the front of the lens. I'm using the built-in live ND here for this, and that's giving us that 25-second look that you would get if you used a traditional ND filter. It's working out really well, actually. It's smoothing all of that water out and helping to provide some contrast between the rock formations and the rest of the scene. So could I have done better at this location? 100%. But sometimes you've got to work with the conditions that you've got and not fight against them. I could have stayed at the top there, looking down the coast, but I really wouldn't have captured anything. The light was just in the wrong place and it wasn't working out at all. So yeah, coming down here, turning around, at least I've managed to put a composition together. I'll show you this one now and we'll talk a little bit more. So what a day. It's been absolutely fantastic. I've really enjoyed myself. Shame we didn't get perfect light at the end there, but I still think that image was interesting enough to make it worthwhile taking. Now I just want to talk about a few other things before I sign off. Firstly, the image stabilization on this setup is incredible. The OM1 Mark II on its own, with all of the lenses that OMSYSTEMs have, is incredible, but with this particular lens, I've found it to be, yeah, just sublime, really. I think you can get down to about 1/3 of a second at 200mm on this lens and body setup, which is, yeah, mind-blowing for a telephoto lens. Absolutely fantastic. I just want to talk about the image quality as well. Now, on that last photo down at the beach there, the light was terrible, absolutely shocking, but after looking at the images on the back of the screen here, these raw files look really crisp and really detailed. So I think what I'll do, I'll just show you the raw file now so you can see for yourselves. And just bear in mind, you know, the light was absolutely shocking. So to see all of these crisp, wonderful details at this distance as well is, yeah, really, really pleasing. I was zoomed right in at 200mm on that shot there. So yeah, absolutely fantastic image quality. So if you watch the channel regularly, you might remember right at the start of the year, I said I was looking for a dedicated wildlife lens, but I never really found one that would tick all of the boxes I needed to tick, because I wanted a lens that can be compact enough to be able to go in my camera bag for a long hike, and I just really didn't find one that would work for both landscapes and wildlife until now, and I think this might be the one. So would I buy this lens? Absolutely I would. Yeah, it is fantastic, and I can see myself gravitating towards this probably very soon. So yeah, this could be the one. Now, there's a lot more specs and details that I haven't covered in this video, such as its excellent weather sealing, size, weight, and of course the price. So if you're interested in learning more, please be sure to check out the link in my video description. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a like. And if you want to see me out shooting with the OM1 Mark II, you might enjoy the video, which is linked up the top here. Anyway, until next week, take care.